Hey everyone, Gabriel here. Did you watch the Super Bowl last night? If you did, you just witnessed God absolutely confirming the year of Christ's return and the end of the world. And he did it in front of the largest American audience he could get at one time. For over 100 million people watched that game. And you want to know how he did it? Well, here it is. It was a little after halftime, and I'd given up on the game. The Patriots had fallen behind by a score of 28-3. And the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history was only a 10-point deficit. So it was over. I gave up. No need to watch the rest of that game, I thought. New England's down by 25 points. They're done. So I went to take a bath. And as I laid in the tub, for a brief moment this thought came to me. God, are you going to speak a message to the people through the numbers in this game? You did it years ago in the game with Tebow, with the John 3:16 thing. So are you gonna? And the reason I had thought this, or asked this, was because the number 28 was on the scoreboard at the time. And for almost 10 years now, ever since I wrote my book in 2008, God has me out there proclaiming to the world that Jesus Christ is going to return, Feast of Trumpets, 2028. And God has confirmed this truth to me using the number 28 at different times. Even other people. He gave a man in England a dream with the number 28 in the sun. You can learn about that on my website. So the question crossed my mind as I lay there in the bathtub. But believe me, it didn't last long. I was quickly brought back to reality because I had watched Atlanta's offense and they were unstoppable. I figured they'd easily score, another 14, 20 points or something, and New England couldn't score. So my question to God quickly went away, and that was that. I finished my bath, got out, and I went right back to work on the 12-part salvation equation video series God has me working on these days. I didn't even watch the second half. I mean, what for? The game was basically over. Well, long story short, I caught the last few minutes of the game. And if you watched it, you know the rest of the story. At the end of the 60-minute game, the scoreboard read 28-28. I couldn't believe it. Atlanta hadn't scored any more points, and New England had scored 25 unanswered points? Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. And then I sat there and I watched New England win the game in overtime, completing the greatest comeback in Super Bowl history. But as I sat there watching the TV tied at 28-28, at the end of the 60-minute game, I realized God was speaking through the game's numbers. Friend, you probably don't realize this, but you're playing a game. It's called the game of life. That's right. God has created a game for His pleasure, and you're playing in it. And you're going to win or lose the game. There is no other option for you. But guess what? Just like all games, the length of the time the game of life would be played was determined by God before the game ever began. I mean, think about that. That's only fair, right? What kind of a game is it that you don't know when the end's coming, from the very time you start playing the game? You have to know how long the game's going to be played for. And God concealed this truth in His 7-day creation story. And all this information is in my book that I wrote in 2008. And it's the reason God spoke through the prophet Isaiah saying, I have declared the end from the beginning. And without getting into it here, for this information is all in my book, the game of life is going to end after 6,000 years have passed. And then Christ's 1,000-year Sabbath reign will begin on this earth. So just like the Super Bowl game ended after 60 minutes with a score of 28-28, so too the game of life will end after 6,000 years, during the year 2028. In other words, God put two number 28s on the scoreboard at the end of the 60-minute game to shout to the world, the game of life will be over in the year 28, or AD 2028, which will be Earth's 6,000th year. Listen, different times in the Bible, God said something twice to confirm that the thing was sure, meaning it was fixed to happen. God did this with Joseph in the Old Testament, giving him two dreams with the exact same meaning. One was about bundles of sheaves bowing down to an upright bundle, and the other was about 11 stars bowing down to him. Both dreams had the same meaning. One day, Joseph's 11 brothers would bow down to him. The two dreams meant it was sure to happen. And if you know the story, it did. Then later in Egypt, God gave Pharaoh two dreams. That again had the same meaning. In the one, 7 thin cows ate up 7 fat ones that had come first. And in the second, 7 scrawny heads of grain swallowed up 7 fat ears of grain that had came first. And both dreams had the same meaning. 7 years of plenty would be followed by 7 years of famine. And that is exactly what happened. Joseph even told Pharaoh, "Pharaoh, the dream was doubled unto you twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass." God wrote his 10 love commandments twice on 2 sets of stone tablets after Moses broke the first pair. It means his law of love is fixed. It's unchangeable. Gideon received 2 signs from God that the Israelites would be delivered, and they were. Here's the deal. Friend, if God says something twice, it's unchangeable. The thing is sure to happen. And as honest as I stand here, last night, God miraculously controlled that football game, doubling the number 28 at the end of the 60-minute game. And he did it all to shout to the world, the end of the game of life is coming, Earth's 6,000th year, AD 2028. Get my book, read it, and get ready for his return, folks. Trust me, if you lose this game, it is going to be the biggest mistake you ever make. So please, don't mess this up.